With a deafening roar of engines and blinding flashes of light, the Illyrian armada emerged from warp space near Earth's orbit. Battle cruisers the size of cities arranged themselves into an impenetrable blockade, black metal hulls bristling with enough firepower to reduce continents to ash. Ymir the Unyielding, warlord of the Illyrian Empire, materialized on every communication screen. His scarred gray face twisted into a sneer as he delivered his ultimatum. Humanity would surrender immediately and submit to eternal servitude, or watch their civilization burn to cinders before their eyes. Aboard the orbital defense platform, General Keller slammed a fist on the console. Casualty projections painted a grim picture. Earth's forces could take out 5% of the Illyrian fleet at most before being wiped out. It would be a slaughter. In the chaos and despair that gripped the world, an emergency transmission summoned Donald Cox to UN headquarters in Geneva. The grizzled Special Forces operative had a reputation for doing the impossible and a penchant for gleefully ignoring the chain of command. If anyone could pull a miracle out of their ass, it was Cox. In a room full of ashen-faced world leaders, Cox listened to an insane proposition. Through back-channel intel, they'd uncovered an ancient Illyrian law. A world could be spared conquest if their champion beat an Illyrian warrior in single combat, one man with the fate of humanity in his hands. All eyes turned to Cox. He cracked a grin and flicked open a lighter, touching flame to the cigarette dangling from his lips. So, who do I have to beat the shit out of to save the world? By the time Ymir finished his ultimatum, every screen on Earth showed a new transmission. Cox stood in full combat regalia, a dozen medals gleaming on his chest. His gravelly voice boomed with steely resolve. "Ymir," Cox bellowed, "humanity rejects your offer. We ain't gonna die like cattle in a slaughterhouse. If you want this planet, you're gonna have to go through me." The warlord's eyes narrowed as he processed the formal challenge to single combat. To refuse would be a fatal blow to his honor, but the human had to be insane, thinking he could best an Illyrian in hand-to-hand combat. Ymir's fangs glinted in a predatory smile. "I accept your challenge, Earthling. Know that when your blood stains my hands, your entire species will bear witness to your folly." Cox just smirked and took a drag on his cigarette. "Bring it on, you ugly bastard. I'll kick your ass in front of the whole damn universe." An audible gasp rippled through the UN command center. By skill, guts, or sheer bravado, Cox had just pulled off the impossible. A fighting chance for Earth's survival. But to turn that chance into victory, he'd have to march into an alien hellscape and take on the greatest warrior of a civilization built on slaughter. One man, one duel, the fate of humanity on the line, game on. As the world reeled from the Illyrian ultimatum, an emergency session of the UN Security Council convened to determine humanity's course of action. The debate raged for hours, with every possible strategy dissected and discarded. Conventional warfare was suicide. Surrender meant enslavement. The challenge of single combat, while an insane gambit, offered the only sliver of hope. The question remained, who among Earth's warriors could stand against the Illyrian champion? Dossiers of elite soldiers flashed across the screen, each candidate as deadly as the last. But one name rose above the rest, whispered with equal parts reverence and fear: Captain Alexei Volkov. Call sign, Vanguard. Volkov's exploits were the stuff of legend, his classified missions spoken of only in hushed tones. They said he once took on an entire terrorist cell single-handedly, armed with nothing but a combat knife, that he could vanish into the shadows and strike like a phantom, that his eyes held a darkness, as if he'd stared into the abyss and never quite came back. The Council's decision was swift and unanimous. Volkov was Earth's champion, humanity's last line of defense. Within hours, a Black Ops team extracted Volkov from a mission in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Still clad in a blood-stained tactical gear, he stood before the Council as they laid out the dire situation. The fate of the world rested on his shoulders. One duel to decide the future of the human race. Volkov listened in stoic silence, his expression carved from granite. When the Council finished, he simply nodded and uttered 4 words that would echo through history: "I accept the mission." What followed was a brutal crucible of training and preparation. Volkov pushed his body and mind to the breaking point, mastering every form of combat known to man. He sparred with the world's greatest martial artists, honing his skills to a razor's edge. In the labs, Earth's top minds worked feverishly to create a cutting-edge battlesuit that could withstand the Illyrians' fearsome technology. As the day of the duel drew near, Volkov reached out to Warlord Ymir for a pre-battle exchange. In a tense video transmission, the two warriors locked eyes, taking each other's measure. Ymir sneered at the human's audacity, vowing to paint the arena with his blood. But Volkov never flinched, his gaze unwavering as he spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "I am the vanguard. I carry the hopes and dreams of Earth on my shoulders, and I will not fail them. When we meet in battle, you will learn the true strength of humanity." A flicker of grudging respect crossed Ymir's scarred visage. Perhaps this human would prove a worthy foe after all. Back on Earth, the world watched with breathless expectation as Volkov prepared for his fateful journey. Some called it a fool's errand, a futile gesture in the face of annihilation. But others saw a glimmer of defiance, a refusal to go quietly into the night. They placed their faith in the legend of the vanguard, praying that one man could achieve the impossible. In a solemn ceremony, Volkov was officially designated Earth's champion. A special banner was placed in his hands, emblazoned with the emblems of every nation, a symbol of unity in the face of destruction. As he boarded the sleek spacecraft built for this crucial mission, the weight of the world settled on his broad shoulders. The journey to the heart of the Illyrian Empire was long and perilous, a voyage into the unknown. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Volkov reflected on the incredible burden he carried, the hopes and fears of billions, all resting on his ability to triumph against impossible odds. But he could not waver now, for he was the vanguard, humanity's last stand against the darkness, and he would fight with the strength of an entire world behind him. On countless screens across the globe, people watched as Volkov's ship hurtled towards its destination. With each parsec crossed, the tension mounted, a palpable electric charge that united the human race as never before. Soldiers and civilians, rich and poor, every shade of human difference, all bound together by the flickering light of their screens, witnessing history unfold. And on the Illyrian homeworld, Warlord Ymir waited with a predator's hunger. For soon, under the gaze of 100 star systems, the vanguard would duel for the fate of the Earth, the greatest warrior of each civilization, locked in a battle to the death. Two champions, one victor, the future of all humanity in the balance. The sleek spacecraft sliced through the inky void, carrying Earth's champion towards his destiny. Captain Alexei Volkov sat motionless in the cockpit, his piercing gaze fixed on the rapidly approaching orb of Nox Prime. The Illyrian homeworld loomed large in the viewscreen, a world of obsidian cliffs and crimson skies dominated by the massive gas giant Kygon. As the ship entered the planet's atmosphere, Volkov's enhanced senses cataloged every detail. The air crackled with an alien charge, tinged with the acrid scent of volcanic ash. Towering spires of black crystal jutted from the landscape, their faceted surfaces reflecting the deep red light of the alien sun. The spacecraft touched down on a landing pad, carved into the side of a massive cliff face. As the hatch hissed open, Volkov strode out, his advanced combat armor gleaming in the harsh light. The suit hugged his frame like a second skin, its surface rippling with nanomachines primed for action. A contingent of Illyrian guards approached, their massive forms dwarfing the human warrior. Without a word, they escorted Volkov through winding corridors of polished stone. The air grew thick with anticipation as they neared the arena. They emerged into a colossal amphitheater, its tiered seats carved directly into the living rock of the cliffs. Thousands of Illyrian spectators filled the stands, their eyes locked on the lone human who dared to challenge their champion. Volkov was led to a preparation chamber, where battle priests began their sacred rituals. As they anointed him with oils that sizzled on his skin, Volkov caught his first glimpse of Warlord Ymir. The Illyrian leader was a mountain of muscle and gleaming golden armor. In his hands, he wielded a massive double-bladed battle axe that pulsed with almost unchecked energy. Their eyes met across the chamber, and Volkov saw a flicker of surprise in Ymir's gaze at the human's relatively small stature. The battle priest presented Volkov with his weapon, a katana of impossible sharpness, its monomolecular edge catching the light like liquid silver. As his fingers closed around the hilt, Volkov felt the blade become an extension of his own body. The combatants took their positions in the center of the arena. Volkov raised his fist in the traditional Illyrian salute, earning a grudging nod of respect from Ymir. For a heartbeat, all was still. Then, with a deafening roar, Ymir charged. His battle axe cleaved the air, aiming to crush Volkov in a single devastating blow. But the human was no longer there. Volkov's enhanced reflexes propelled him to the side, the axe missing by a hair's breadth. In the same fluid motion, his katana flashed out, slicing through Ymir's armor seamlessly. The warlord staggered back, green blood seeping from the wound. His eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with newfound respect and fury. The duel began in earnest. Ymir's axe became a whirlwind of destruction, each swing carrying enough force to shatter mountains. But Volkov danced between the blows, his movements a blur of inhuman speed and precision. The katana darted in and out, finding chinks in Ymir's armor with surgical accuracy. Each strike drew blood, each parry sent shockwaves through the arena. As the fight wore on, the tide began to turn. Ymir's attacks grew wilder, more desperate. Volkov pressed his advantage, his combat algorithms predicting each move before it happened. In a last furious gambit, Ymir lunged forward with all his might, but Volkov was ready. He sidestepped the charge and brought his katana down in a perfect arc. There was a moment of perfect silence as Ymir's severed hand, still clutching the battle axe, hit the arena floor. The warlord fell to his knees, disbelief etched across his scarred features. Volkov stood over him, katana poised at his throat, the fate of two civilizations balanced on its razor edge. But instead of delivering the killing blow, Volkov extended his hand. Confusion rippled through the arena as the human helped his defeated foe to his feet. Volkov's voice rang out, clear and strong. "Let this be an end to hostilities between our peoples. We came here as adversaries, but we may yet leave as friends." As Ymir was led away by his retainers, a hush fell over the assembled Illyrians. They stared at the human warrior with a mixture of awe and uncertainty, their entire worldview shaken to its core. Volkov turned towards his ship, knowing that this victory was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, forging a lasting peace between two vastly different civilizations. As he boarded the spacecraft, Volkov took one last look at the alien world. The red sun was setting behind the gas giant Kygon, casting long shadows across the obsidian landscape. In that moment, he felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders, and the hope for a future that neither had dared to imagine. The spacecraft's engines flared as it pierced Earth's atmosphere, a blazing comet heralding humanity's triumph. As Volkov's vessel touched down on the tarmac, a deafening roar erupted from the assembled crowds. Millions had gathered, their faces upturned in awe and adoration. Volkov emerged, his combat suit still bearing the scars of his alien duel. The air vibrated with chants of, "Vanguard! Vanguard!" As he strode down the gangway, world leaders surged forward, eager to bask in the reflected glory of Earth's champion. But Volkov's piercing gaze swept past them, settling on a nondescript figure at the edge of the throng. With a barely perceptible nod, he allowed himself to be swept into a waiting motorcade. Hours later, deep within a subterranean military complex, Volkov stood before a shadowy assembly of Earth's true power brokers. The jubilation of the masses seemed a distant memory in this austere chamber. "Captain Volkov," a gravelly voice intoned from the darkness, "your victory against the Illyrians was merely the opening gambit in a far greater conflict." Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing star charts crisscrossed with ominous patterns. As the briefing unfolded, Volkov's expression hardened. The Primordials, an ancient, malevolent force, puppeteering galactic affairs from the shadows. "You were created for this moment, Volkov," another voice added. "The Vanguard program has always aimed beyond mere planetary defense." Volkov's mind raced, processing the implications. "You're asking me to abandon Earth? To become something else?" "To save humanity, you must transcend it," came the response. In a sterile lab, Volkov lay on an operating table, surrounded by a forest of blinking machines. As the anesthetic hissed through his mask, he closed his eyes, bidding farewell to the man he had been. He awoke to a symphony of enhanced senses. Every cell in his body hummed with newfound power. As he rose, Volkov caught his reflection in a polished surface. The face that stared back was no longer fully human. "The transformation is complete," a scientist announced. "You are now the Vanguard in truth as well as name." Volkov? No, the Vanguard, flexed his hands, marveling at the interplay of synthetic muscle and nano-reinforced bone. He spoke, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "I'm ready. What's my first target?" A holographic star map materialized before him, a distant system pulsing red. "We've detected primordial activity in the Cygnus arm. Your ship is prepped and waiting." The Vanguard nodded, striding towards the hangar where his vessel, overflowing with experimental weaponry, stood poised for launch. As the airlock sealed behind him, he cast one final glance at the blue marble of Earth through the viewscreen. Without fanfare or hesitation, the Vanguard engaged the ship's faster-than-light drive. In a flash of warped space-time, Earth vanished, replaced by the cold void between stars. His mission to unravel the primordial's machinations had begun. The Vanguard ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, materializing at the edge of the Grax Nebula. Swirling clouds of ionized gas painted the viewscreen in eerie hues of violet and green. Somewhere within that cosmic maelstrom lay his target, a hidden primordial research facility. He activated the vessel's stealth systems, rendering it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. The ship glided silently through the nebula's volatile storms, dodging tendrils of energy that could have vaporized lesser craft. As he neared the facility's coordinates, the Vanguard's enhanced vision pierced the gaseous veil. There, nestled within an asteroid, loomed a structure of impossible geometries, all harsh angles and non-Euclidean architecture that hurt the eye to look upon. The Vanguard docked his ship with practiced precision, using a maintenance airlock to bypass the station's outer defenses. He moved through the corridors like a shadow, his augmented reflexes allowing him to incapacitate guards before they could even register his presence. The deeper he penetrated into the facility, the more nightmarish it became. Holding cells lined the walls, filled with twisted forms that had once been sentient beings. Some whimpered, others stared vacantly, their minds shattered by unimaginable torments. A wave of revulsion washed over the Vanguard, but he pushed it aside. There would be time for sentiment later. Now he had a mission to complete. Using access codes gleaned from an incapacitated officer, the Vanguard breached the inner sanctum. The chamber beyond defied description, a pulsating, organic mass of technology that seemed to breathe with malevolent life. At its center stood Xenos, the facility's overseer. Once humanoid, the creature before him was now a grotesque fusion of flesh and machine, its form warping and shifting as if unable to decide on a single shape. "Ah, the human weapon," Xenos' voice reverberated, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "How quaint." The air around them began to ripple and distort. The Vanguard's combat algorithms kicked into overdrive as he dodged attacks that bent the very fabric of space-time. His own strikes, enhanced by bleeding-edge technology, tore through Xenos' defenses. Their battle raged across multiple dimensions, reality itself buckling under the strain. The facility shuddered and groaned, systems overloading as cosmic forces were unleashed within its confines. In a final, daring plan, the Vanguard channeled every ounce of his augmented power into a single, devastating assault. Xenos' form imploded, its consciousness scattered to the cosmic winds. Warning klaxons blared as the station began to tear itself apart. The Vanguard raced through disintegrating corridors, smashing open holding cells and herding terrified test subjects toward his ship. With seconds to spare, the Vanguard's vessel burst free of the Doom facility. Behind them, a silent explosion consumed the asteroid, leaving only a faint ripple in the nebula's eternal dance. As the ship sped away from the Grax Nebula, the Vanguard tended to the survivors. Their eyes, filled with a mixture of fear and desperate hope, bore into him. he set coordinates for a safe haven beyond the primordial's reach, knowing this was only the first step in a long, arduous campaign. A priority transmission from Earth interrupted his musings. The Council's faces appeared on the console, their expressions a mix of relief and concern. "The Grax facility has been neutralized," the Vanguard reported, "but this is just the beginning." As if to underscore his words, a new alert flashed across his neural interface. Long-range sensors had detected a massive surge of primordial activity. The Vanguard's lips set in a grim line as he processed the implications. The true test was yet to come. The Vanguard's ship shuddered as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel, alarms blaring throughout the vessel. On the display, a swarm of sleek, predatory craft materialized against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. "Primordial hunter-killers," the Vanguard muttered, his enhanced senses already calculating trajectories and analyzing weak points. "They've found us." A barrage of energy weapons lanced across space, bathing the ship's shields in blinding light. The Vanguard's hands flew across the control panels, initiating evasive maneuvers, even as he plotted a desperate course through a nearby wormhole nexus. Space twisted around them as they plunged into the swirling vortex. The pursuing ships followed, their relentless assault never wavering. As they emerged into the Izuran clusters, the lead hunter's face appeared on the communication screen. "I am Kargra," the alien's voice dripped with cold malice. "Your defiance ends here, human." The Vanguard cut the transmission and pushed his engines to their limits. What followed was a harrowing chase across multiple star systems. On each world they passed, the hunters struck with surgical precision, disabling crucial systems one by one. On Novalux Prime, a precision strike crippled the cloaking device. In the asteroid fields of Taurus 9, the weapons array overloaded under sustained fire. By the time they reached the mining colony of Akron Prime, the Vanguard's ship was little more than a battered hulk limping through space. With no other options, the Vanguard dove toward the planet's surface. The ship's hull glowed red-hot as it plummeted through the atmosphere, finally crash-landing in a desolate wasteland of jagged rock and steaming fissures. The Vanguard dragged himself from the wreckage, his enhanced body already repairing the damage from the impact. In the distance, he could see Kargra's ships touching down, disgorging squads of heavily armed hunters. A plan formed in the Vanguard's augmented mind as he surveyed the terrain. The planet's unstable geology could be turned to his advantage. He sprinted across the barren landscape, drawing the hunters into a deadly game of cat and mouse. For hours, the battle raged across Akron Prime's hellish surface. The Vanguard used every trick in his arsenal, from holographic decoys to improvised plasma grenades. But Kargra's forces were relentless, their numbers slowly wearing him down. In a final, audacious attempt, the Vanguard lured the hunters to a massive geothermal vent. As Kargra closed in for the kill, he triggered the explosives he'd planted in his ruined ship. The resulting chain reaction ignited the volatile gases beneath their feet. A column of superheated magma erupted skyward, engulfing Kargra and her hunters in a maelstrom of fire and toxic fumes. The Vanguard barely escaped the conflagration, his synthetic skin blistering from the intense heat. As the dust settled, the Vanguard found himself utterly alone on the desolate world. His ship was gone, his communication systems fried. He stared up at the alien sky, wondering if this would be his final resting place. Days passed as he scavenged for resources, using his enhanced body to survive in the harsh environment. It was during one of these expeditions that he detected an approaching vessel on the edge of his sensor range. The ship that descended was unlike any he'd seen before, a patchwork of salvaged parts cobbled together into an improbable yet functional whole. As the boarding ramp lowered, a motley crew of aliens emerged, led by a lithe reptilian figure. "Well, well," the alien captain's voice was smoother than the Vanguard expected. "What do we have here?" "I am the Vanguard," he replied, tensing for a potential fight. "And you are?" "Venora," she answered with a predatory grin, "captain of the Estrella. And you, my cybernetic friend, are our ticket to the biggest payday this side of the galactic core." The Vanguard's combat algorithms kicked into high gear as several crew members raised their weapons. But before he could react, Venora held up a hand. Hold your fire, you idiots, she hissed. Can't you see what we're dealing with? In a blur of motion, the Vanguard disarmed the nearest attacker, using the alien's own weapon to incapacitate two more. Within seconds, the entire boarding party lay groaning on the ground. Venora's eyes widened, a mix of fear and admiration crossing her features. Perhaps, she said slowly, we should discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. The Vanguard lowered the weapon, his gaze never leaving the alien captain. I'm listening. Venora gestured toward her ship. We have information about a gathering resistance force in the Virillian Nebulae, enemies of the primordials, like yourself. We can take you there for a price. The Vanguard considered his options. With no other way off this rock, he didn't have much choice. Very well, he said. But know this, any betrayal will be met with swift retribution. As they boarded the Estrella, the Vanguard's enhanced senses detected the faint signal of a primordial patrol ship entering the system. Time was running out. Chart a course for the Virillian Nebulae, he ordered, his voice brooking no argument. We have work to do. The patchwork ship's engines flared to life, lifting them off the barren surface of Akron Prime. As they accelerated toward the stars, the Vanguard allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. The hunt had only just begun. The Estrella lurched as it exited the final wormhole, emerging into a vast nebula of swirling purples and blues. The Vanguard's enhanced vision pierced the cosmic veil, revealing a hidden flotilla of mismatched vessels and hollowed-out asteroids. Welcome to the Virillian Nebulae, Venora announced, her scaled fingers dancing across the ship's controls. Last refuge of the desperate and hunted. As they approached the makeshift colony, a cacophony of voices erupted over the comm systems. The Vanguard caught snatches of different languages, all tinged with excitement and disbelief. It's him, the human weapon. Our savior has arrived. Venora cast a sideways glance at the Vanguard. Seems your reputation precedes you. The Estrella docked with a massive patchwork space station that served as the heart of the resistance. As the airlock cycled open, the Vanguard was greeted by a sea of alien faces, some humanoid, others defying easy classification. Their eyes shone with a mixture of hope and desperation. A tall insectoid being pushed through the crowd. Its carapace bore the scars of countless battles, and its compound eyes glittered with intelligence. I am Nazrael, High Sovereign of the Rydak Resistance, it clicked, mandibles twitching. Your arrival is most fortuitous, Vanguard of Earth. We have much to discuss. The alien led them to a war room, its walls covered in star charts and tactical displays. Nazrael wasted no time in outlining their predicament. The primordials rule from Celastalis Arcopolis, the High Sovereign explained, bringing up a holographic display of an impossibly vast space station. Its defenses have repelled our every attempt at infiltration. The Vanguard studied the rotating image, his augmented mind already dissecting potential weaknesses. Your conventional methods are insufficient, he stated. We need a new approach. Over the next hours, a plan took shape. The Vanguard's knowledge of Terran technology, combined with the desperate ingenuity of the Resistance, birthed a daring strategy. They would build a warp gate, one capable of bypassing Celestalis's impenetrable shields. This is madness, one of Nazrael's advisors hissed. It cannot be done. The Vanguard's eyes glowed with cold purpose. It must be done, and it will be. What followed was a frenzy of activity. The Resistance threw every resource they had into the project. The Vanguard worked tirelessly, his cybernetic body pushing far beyond normal human limits. Venora's crew proved invaluable, their expertise in cobbling together disparate technologies perfectly suited to the task at hand. As news spread, more allies flocked to their cause. Ships bearing the insignia of Earth arrived, bringing with them fresh troops and cutting-edge weaponry. The Virillian Nebulae buzzed with an energy it hadn't known in centuries. Finally, after months of backbreaking labor and near-impossible feats of engineering, the warp gate stood complete, a shimmering portal of possibility, ready to deliver them into the heart of their enemy's stronghold. The Vanguard stood before the assembled forces of the Resistance, humans, Rydaks, and a dozen other species, united in common cause. He activated a neural link, projecting a tactical overlay for all to see. "The gate will deposit us directly into Celestalis' core containment chamber," he explained, his voice calm and measured. "From there, we strike hard and fast. Our primary objective is the central citadel, where the Archon himself resides." Nazrael stepped forward, mandibles clicking in anticipation. "This is our moment. Today, we reclaim our future." A deafening roar went up from the assembled warriors. The vanguard allowed himself a small nod of satisfaction before turning to the warp gate controls. With a single command, he activated the device remotely from within Celestalis itself. The portal flared to life, a swirling vortex of untamed energy. Without hesitation, the vanguard plunged through, Nazrael and the vanguard of their forces close behind. They emerged into chaos. Alarms blared as confused primordial guards scrambled to respond to the sudden intrusion. The resistance fighters wasted no time, their weapons blazing with righteous fury. The vanguard moved like a force of nature, his augmented body a blur of devastating strikes. Primordial elites fell before him, their once impenetrable defenses shattered by Terran weaponry they had never encountered. As they fought their way deeper into the Archopolis, the vanguard's enhanced senses detected a growing instability in the station's power core. The collapse of their carefully maintained systems was causing a chain reaction, threatening to tear Celestalis apart. "We need to move faster," he shouted to Nazrael over the din of battle. "This place is coming down around us." They pushed on relentlessly, cutting through waves of increasingly desperate defenders. At last, they reached the towering gates of the central citadel. The vanguard's fist smashed through the control panel, overriding the locking mechanisms with brute technological force. As the massive doors ground open, they were met with a sight that chilled even the vanguard's cybernetic blood. There, amidst swirling vortices of arcane energy, stood the Archon, supreme ruler of the primordials, and architect of countless atrocities. The being before them defied easy description, its form shifting and writhing in ways that hurt the mind to comprehend. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "So the cattle have come to confront the butcher." The Archon's words dripped with contempt. "How quaint." The vanguard stepped forward, his augmented body tensed for battle. "Your reign ends here, Archon." With a sound like reality itself tearing, the Archon unleashed its full might. The vanguard's combat algorithms kicked into overdrive as he dodged attacks that warped the very fabric of spacetime. His own strikes, enhanced by bleeding-edge technology, tore through the Archon's eldritch defenses. Around them, Celestalis Archopolis shuddered and groaned, systems overloading as cosmic forces were unleashed within its confines. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance as the two titans clashed, surrounded by the inferno of a dying empire. Station. The vanguard's enhanced senses detected the growing instability, the very fabric of reality fraying at the edges. The Archon's form twisted, defying comprehension as it channeled dark energies. "You dare challenge a god?" it roared, its voice reverberating through dimensions. A gravitational vortex erupted from the Archon's writhing mass, threatening to crush the vanguard. He activated his hexameric armor, the advanced alloy glowing as it absorbed the impossible forces. With a burst of speed, he closed the distance, his quantum blade slicing through the Archon's eldritch defenses. The clash of titans shook Celestalis to its core. The Archon hurled entire star systems, compressed into projectiles of unimaginable density. The vanguard's augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge and weave, each near miss leaving reality itself scarred in its wake. Amidst the chaos, Nazrael's voice crackled over the comm. "Vanguard, we've breached the power nexus. Initiating overload sequence now." A blinding flash erupted from deep within the station. The arcane backblast tore through the Citadel's foundations, sending shockwaves of raw energy cascading outward. The vanguard braced himself, but the Archon seized the moment of distraction. "Enough games," the primordial ruler snarled. An entropic stasis field enveloped the vanguard, sapping strength from his hyperalloy exoskeleton. He felt his molecular structure destabilizing, his very atoms threatening to unravel. Through the haze of disintegration, the vanguard witnessed a horrifying sight. The surviving primordials gathered around the Archon, channeling their collective psychic might. A pulse of energy radiated outward, carrying with it the promise of total assimilation. All sentient life, the Archon's voice echoed across dimensions, will be one with us. The vanguard struggled against the stasis field, his enhanced mind racing to find a solution. He detected the psychic signal worming its way into his consciousness, threatening to subsume his individuality into the primordial hive mind. Suddenly, a familiar presence pushed through the mental assault. Nazral's voice, strained but determined, echoed in his mind. "Resist, Vanguard! We can disrupt their signal, but the cost—" The insectoid warlord appeared before him, her physical form already disintegrating under the onslaught of psychic energy. Behind her, the last of the Rydak resistance poured their life force into a final, risky move. "Find a way," Nazral implored, her compound eyes fixed on the vanguard. "End this, for all of us." With a surge of power, Nazral and her lieutenants erupted into pure energy. The psychic backlash shattered the Archon's assimilation signal, creating a momentary reprieve. In that instant, something awakened within the vanguard. He tapped into reserves of power he never knew existed, his transhuman physiology pushing beyond its limits. His consciousness expanded, achieving a state of nanoscale transcendence. The entropic stasis field crumbled as the vanguard's newly awakened power purged the Archon's influence from his systems. He stood tall, his form radiating with an otherworldly energy. "Impossible!" the Archon howled, its confidence shaken for the first time. The vanguard's voice resonated with newfound authority. "You've manipulated and destroyed for too long. This ends now." With a thought, he phased through the very fabric of space-time, breaching the singularity's event horizon. He found himself in a realm beyond physical comprehension, face to face with the true forms of the primordial intelligences. Here, in this higher plane of existence, the vanguard confronted the architects of galactic suffering. Their alien consciousness pressed against his, seeking to overwhelm and assimilate, but the vanguard stood firm, his unstoppable drive now a weapon more potent than any physical armament. He reached out not with hands, but with the very essence of his being, and grasped the threads of reality that bound the primordials to our universe. With a surge of will that transcended the limits of flesh and machine, he began to sever those connections. The fabric of the omniverse trembled as the vanguard weaponized his hyper-advanced consciousness. Reality itself seemed to scream as he tore through the intricate web of primordial influence, banishing the higher dimensional beings from the cosmos they had manipulated for eons. As the last thread snapped, the vanguard felt himself hurtling back towards normal space-time. The collapsing singularity nexus threatened to tear apart the very foundations of reality, but the vanguard, forever changed by his transcendent experience, exerted his will upon the cosmic maelstrom. Order began to reassert itself as he emerged from the dimensional rift. Celestalis Arcopolis crumbled around him, the once mighty seat of primordial power, now nothing more than drifting debris. The vanguard stood amidst the destruction, his form radiating with power beyond mortal comprehension. He had won, but at what cost? As the dust of cosmic battle settled, the vanguard turned his gaze to the stars. The galaxy lay before him, free from primordial influence for the first time in eons. But new challenges and responsibilities awaited, and the vanguard knew his journey was not nearly finished. The vanguard's consciousness expanded beyond the confines of physical reality, his newly transcendent form pulsing with cosmic energy. As the remnants of Celestalis drifted into the void, a sudden ripple of awareness surged through him. Something was wrong. Across the vastness of space, alarms blared on countless worlds. The vanguard's heightened senses detected a wave of terror sweeping across civilizations. His mind raced, processing terabytes of data in microseconds. "No," the word escaped him as a whisper that echoed through subspace. Massive arc ships, their hulls gleaming with otherworldly alloys, emerged from hyperspace near populated systems. The vanguard recognized them instantly, primordial doomsday machines. activated by some final, spiteful command. He watched in horror as the first Ark ship positioned itself above a teeming world. Its singularity drive pulsed, warping space-time around it. Conventional weapons fire from planetary defenses dissipated harmlessly against its impenetrable shields. The Vanguard's mind raced, calculating potential outcomes. Billions would die within hours if he didn't act. But what could he do, even in this ascended state? A memory surfaced, a fragment of knowledge gleaned during his confrontation with the primordial architects. He saw the intricate web of subspace domains that underlay reality itself. Without hesitation, the Vanguard made his choice. He reached out, not with physical limbs, but with the very essence of his being. His consciousness fractured, scattering across every subspace domain simultaneously. The sensation was indescribable. The Vanguard existed everywhere and nowhere, his awareness stretching to the farthest corners of the universe. He felt himself unraveling, but fought to maintain coherence long enough to complete his task. He located the first Ark ship, its quantum signature unmistakable. With a thought, he infiltrated its systems, his transcendent mind easily bypassing firewalls designed to repel mere technological attacks. Deep within the Ark ship's core, he found what he sought, the decentric command codex. The Vanguard's fractured essence swarmed over it, corrupting and overriding its genocidal directives. The massive vessel shuddered, its weapons powering down mere moments before they would have obliterated the planet below. But the Vanguard couldn't pause to savor his victory. Already he felt himself stretched to the breaking point. He raced across the cosmos, his splintered consciousness targeting Ark ship after Ark ship. Each successful override further fragmented his being. Warning signs flashed through what remained of his mind. Critical instability detected, complete dissolution imminent. The Vanguard ignored the warnings. He pushed on, determined to neutralize every last threat. As he disabled the final Ark ship, he felt a great unraveling. His higher self shattered, scattering across infinite realities. In his last moment of coherence, the Vanguard directed the vital data he'd accumulated. Secrets of primordial technology, galactic maps, warnings of lurking dangers, towards Earth. Countless echoes of himself briefly materialized on his homeworld, each imparting crucial knowledge before fading away. Then, like stardust cast to the cosmic winds, the Vanguard dispersed. His essence drifted through the space-time continuum, perhaps never to reform. On Earth, humanity reeled from the sudden influx of information. As the last Vanguard echo faded, a silence fell over the planet. The threat was gone, but so too was their greatest champion. In the void left by the primordial's defeat, new tensions arose. Shattered civilizations looked to Earth with hope, fear, and hunger. Humanity found itself thrust into a role it had never asked for, custodians of a broken galaxy. As Earth's leaders grappled with their newfound responsibilities, whispers spread of strange phenomena occurring across the cosmos, glimpses of a familiar presence, like shards of a shattered mirror, appearing in moments of dire need. The Vanguard was gone, but perhaps not truly lost. The galaxy teetered on a knife's edge. The primordial menace had been vanquished, but the scars of their reign ran deep. New challenges loomed on the horizon, and humanity would face them without their transcendent protector. The true test was only beginning. The cosmic dust settled, and Earth found itself thrust into an unexpected role. Humanity, once on the brink of annihilation, now stood as custodians of a shattered galaxy. Admiral Katrina Volkov stared out the viewport of her command ship, the Damascus. The vastness of space seemed to mock her, a constant reminder of the burden humanity now carried. She ran her fingers through her close-cropped silver hair, a gesture inherited from her father, the Vanguard. "Admiral," her XO's voice crackled over the comm, "we've detected unusual energy signatures in the Crazy system." Katrina's eyebrows furrowed. "Show me." A holographic display materialized, revealing a swarm of ships entering the system. Their design was alien, angular, with pulsing veins of dark energy coursing through their hulls. "Cyrath Crusade," Katrina muttered, recognizing the infamous fleet. "How long until they reach Kerezi Prime?" At current velocity, less than 6 hours. Katrina's mind raced, calculating options. The Kerezi Republic was under Earth's protection, one of the first alien civilizations to accept human guidance in the post-primordial era. She couldn't let them fall. "Alert all ships," she ordered. "We're intercepting the crusade." The Damascus lurched as it entered hyperspace, followed by the rest of the Terran armada. Katrina felt the familiar tingle of faster-than-light travel, but it did nothing to ease the dread settling in her stomach. They emerged from hyperspace to chaos. The Sarath fleet had already engaged Kerezi's orbital defenses, their weapons tearing through the planet's meager shields. "All ships, engage!" Katrina's voice rang out across the fleet. "Prioritize protecting civilian centers." The void erupted in a cacophony of energy beams and explosive ordnance. Terran battlecruisers unleashed salvos of quantum torpedoes, while Sirath fighters swarmed like locusts, many piloting directly into Terran ships in suicidal fury. From the bridge of the Damascus, Katrina coordinated the defense. Her father's tactical genius flowed through her veins, allowing her to anticipate the enemy's moves. But for every Sirath ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "Admiral," her tactical officer shouted, "they've breached the atmosphere. Ground invasion has begun." Katrina's blood ran cold. She opened a channel to the Kerezi leadership. "This is Admiral Volkov. You need to evacuate immediately. We can't hold them back much longer." The response came back garbled, punctuated by explosions. "No time. Millions still in the cities. Please, help us." The bridge fell silent, all eyes on Katrina. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of countless lives pressing down on her. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. "Initiate the Vanguard Protocol," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her XO paled. "Admiral, are you certain? The consequences—" "I know the consequences," Katrina snapped. "Do it." Deep within the Damascus, a hidden chamber hummed to life. Psionic energy, harnessed from the remnants of primordial technology, surged through conduits and coalesced into a blinding beam. The beam lanced out, striking Kerezi Prime. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of sickly green energy rippled across the planet's surface. On the ground, Sarath soldiers watched in horror as their bodies began to twist and mutate. Kerezi civilians screamed as their flesh warped, merging with the invaders. Within minutes, the surface of the planet crawled with nightmarish hybrid creatures, their minds shattered by the transformation. The Sirath fleet, faced with the abomination their holy crusade had wrought, broke formation and fled. Victory, but at what cost? Katrina slumped in her chair, the weight of her decision crushing her. As the reports of casualties in the trillions flooded in, she wondered if this was how her father felt, playing God with the fate of entire worlds. A flicker of movement caught her eye. There, on the psi-blasted surface of Kerezi Prime, a familiar figure coalesced. Impossibly tall, radiating power even from this distance. "Father?" Katrina whispered. The Vanguard had returned, reborn from the cosmic ashes. But as what? Savior or harbinger? Katrina squared her shoulders. There would be time for reunions later. For now, she had a galaxy to shepherd, no matter how dark the path ahead.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.